Hi, I'm Alex. Welcome back to my channel. For those of you who have seen a few of my previous videos, I'm yet again in a different place. I got a new tripod. And by new, I mean I got one. So that means I'm going to be trying out a few different places to record, see what's comfortable, that sort of thing. But on the schedule of today's video, we're going to be doing something a little bit different. With it being December, I thought I would do a bit of a gift guide sort of thing. Really, it's just books that I think other people would enjoy. And hey, if you do the whole Christmas gift giving thing, awesome, maybe this will help. If not, hey, maybe you'll enjoy some of these for yourself. Who knows? Now, I will preface this by saying I don't have pretty much all of these books here. I read them on the Kindle, so I don't have a physical copy, except for one of the books, which I'll start with because it's something I can show you. The prices I'm giving you are all going to be from Amazon and for the physical book. I'm one of those people that kind of likes having physical books, but can't always do that. So the first book I'm going to be starting with is the one I actually have to show you. And that is The Writer's Lab. Oh, I didn't realize that was backwards. Sorry about that. The Writer's Lab, A Place to Experiment with Fiction by Sexton Burke. I love this little book. It is full of prompts for writing, for experimenting. Most of them don't have to be done in order. There are a couple that kind of feed off of the prompt before it, but there aren't many of them. I have been known on more than one occasion to just pick a random page and do that prompt. A lot of them can be very short. They can be, your response to the prompt can be as short or as long as you want. I know for a fact that they were expecting for at least one of these to be a very short description of someone, and it ended up being like a 2-page thing with me. So it's very versatile in that, and if you're having problems getting back into writing or coming up with something for your story, I highly suggest just pick a random prompt in here and go with it. You'd be amazed. The next book I suggest is Pestilence by Laura, let me double check before I say this wrong, Laura Thalassa. It is an adult romance. It is $14.99 for the book. If I can, I'll put links to all of these in the description, or I'll put the names somewhere. We'll see how I manage to make that work. So, Pestilence. If you like adult romance, I would definitely suggest it. If you like the whole Four Horsemen of the Apocalypse thing, which is the reason I picked it up, I'd suggest it. If you like adult romance, but you're not as into the intimate parts of adult romance, there is actually very few scenes like that. Which, for me, is great because while I do read a lot of romance, a lot of those scenes make me kind of uncomfortable. There is maybe one or two, I think there's actually only one scene, and it's very quick, very easy to just gloss over and ignore for the rest of the book. But the story itself, I'll try and not give away a lot of it, is about the apocalypse and the Four Horsemen riding out. And each book in the series is going to be about one of the horsemen. She just a couple months ago, don't quote me on that because I'm not sure, but I want to say a couple months ago, released the second book, which is War. Main character is incredibly sassy. I love her. The main character is amazing. Pestilence is this odd combination of you're doing an awful thing, but somewhere I can tell you're really, really a sweetheart. But it pulls it, Laura Thalassa pulls it off very well. It's a very well written book, and if you're into it, if you know someone who's old enough to read it, but who is into that sort of thing, highly suggest it. Sweet Murder by Tegan, I'm going to mess up her name, Tegan Mayer. Again, I'll put it somewhere either across here or in the description. That is $9.99. It is a cozy. For anyone who's not familiar, cozies are mysteries that aren't so much like that hardcore must solve the problem mystery. They're more laid back, they're more focused on the interactions and everything going on around the mystery. The mystery still plays a part in it, but from what I understand, cozies are really just more about the people. And in truth, Sweet Murder is very much like that. I was unsure about this book when I picked it up because I had never read a cozy before. This book was my gateway into this genre of story. I now officially love cozies. They're one of my favorite things to read next to fantasy. Tegan writes in a way that makes you really get into the lives of these characters. Again, this book is part of a series. I can't tell you if it's the first or not because I don't usually pay attention, and I find a lot of cozies you can jump in pretty much anywhere because while you may not know the characters, you're going to get to know them pretty quickly. So, Sweet Murder is about a witch in this very small town. And while the magic is always kind of present, it's a very back burner thing to what's going on in their lives, which I find worked really well. The main character, very interesting. You'll find that this tends to be something I say pretty commonly throughout all this. The characters. I love books that have really either relatable or interesting characters. So you're going to find this to be a common theme. The main character has lost her aunt. She's taking care of her niece. There are problems going on there. There's problems in town that are threatening. And all the while she's got ghost here, mystery here. It's a very interesting combination. I expected it to get very convoluted and difficult to follow, but it wasn't. At no time was I confused. At no time did I not understand what was going on. And to be quite honest, there were several times I'm like, I know who did this. I know who did this. I know. I was wrong. Every time. Every time I thought I had figured it out, I was wrong. And then when they finally told me who did it, I was like, no. And then I was like, oh, no, you actually just told me. It was a really, really fun read. I would love to read more of her work. Next book, Odd Jobs. Yes, I actually have it all written down here because there's no way I'm remembering all this on my own. By Heidi Goody and Ian Grant. The book is $10.99, and I had a hard time classifying this one as being straight fantasy or urban fantasy, low fantasy. It does take place in England, so I guess technically that would make it low fantasy, possibly urban, I guess. It takes place in our world. Like, these are definitive cities. While I don't normally like describing books like this, Odd Jobs is if Douglas Adams wrote an episode of Doctor Who. And that is the best way I can describe this book. It is bizarre and funny, and I didn't know what was going on. And not in a bad way. it wasn't in the bad way of I didn't know what was going on. It was more like they were referencing these random little tidbits that you were told in the beginning of the book become these huge things later on that I had to stop and go, wait a minute, go back and did I read this earlier, didn't I? Yes, I did. They were doing little things like that all the time. They switched between 2 POVs, I think they were going back and forth between. Odd Jobs is also a bit like, I don't know if any of you have seen it, but there was a show called Warehouse 13. It was a warehouse that held all of the weird supernatural things that were artifacts that were found. Odd Jobs involves a place very similar to that, a library that underneath holds all these weird artifacts, and it is a very difficult book to explain. If you like really tangled sort of lines that where you're referencing things from the beginning that mean something now, and you like sort of quirky humor that I don't know that I would call it adult humor, because I don't think it was, in my opinion, but it definitely would have gone over my head for a good long time. But it's just a truly unique book that I highly suggest for anyone who likes urban fantasy and maybe a bit of the Cthulhu-y thing going on. And if you read any Douglas Adams, you understand what I mean by most of this. Next book, Crane by Stacey Rourke. It is $11.99. It is, again, I would border on fantasy, urban fantasy, maybe not urban, maybe just low fantasy. It's supposed to take place in a real town, but I never actually did the research outside of reading it to find out if the town they were talking about was an actual town. But it's supposed to take place, in our world. So Crane is both a retelling and a continuation of the Legend of Sleepy Hollow. And that was enough for me to want to read it. I love retellings and that sort of thing. It was a unique, the main character in it is a descendant of Ichabod Crane, or she's at least related to him in some way. I never quite figured that whole thing out. But her arrival into town awakens the Headless Horseman. Now, that's all I can actually really say about the plot without giving a lot of it away. But it does switch back and forth between the modern Crane and Ichabod going into Sleepy Hollow the first time, with the unique spin of Washington Irving and Rip Van Winkle being characters in that story. Like, they're friends with Ichabod Crane. Now, for anyone who doesn't know, Washington Irving wrote Sleepy Hollow and Rip Van Winkle. So Stacey Rourke did this really amazing sort of thing where she was like, all right, I'm taking the writer, and the writer only wrote it because these are people he knows. And these are actual things that occurred around him. And that was brilliant. Is also really interesting, again, I'm going to do my best to not give too much of it away, how they paralleled the modern horseman and everything going on around the modern Crane and the past and what happened to Ichabod. There's definitely, she makes very obvious parallels, and it's really interesting to read. I will also say that this book is the first in a series, the next being The Raven, which I believe is going to then be a retelling or incorporate elements of Edgar Allan Poe's The Raven. I have not read that yet. I fully intend to. I am looking so forward to reading this. I miscounted. I apparently didn't have another book, and that should have been my last suggestion. I'm going to give you a little hint, tidbit. I don't know if it'll ever happen or if I was incredibly lucky. A lot of these books I got either free because there was a sale going on or incredibly low priced. I got Pestilence and Sweet Murder free because they were on sale. They were doing one of those, hey, here's our daily sales, and these two books were free. Not at the same time, but the other books are like 99 cents on Amazon if you get the Kindle version. Some of them, if you have Kindle Unlimited, are just straight up free. So if you're getting them for yourself, I highly, highly suggest wait until there's a sale going on. Scope out the free books. Most of the books I've gotten were free that I was like, okay, well, they're free. They're probably not going to be that good. And they turned out amazing. Do not, for a minute, think that just because a book is free, it's going to be bad. If you're getting books for yourself, please wait for sales. Books can be incredibly cheap. Sorry, that was my mini rant. I probably shouldn't have gone on, but you guys got to hear it because today's the day of mini rants. Those are my suggestions for today. Let me know in the comments below if you want to see this again quarterly, twice a year, just at the holidays. Let me know. And I will talk to you all next time. Bye.